Okay, it's time to preview round 6 of the 2025 NRL season, and the action starts with the Dolphins at home against the Panthers of the first match of the round. Both sides have the same record, 1-4. It's an interesting one because on paper the Panthers should beat the Dolphins. In reality, the Panthers are winless in a month, and I mean, while they're not being terrible in attack, defensively, their numbers are not great. And that's where I think things are going wrong, is defensively. There's been a lot of player turnover in recent years. Has that caught up with them? Are players all fully fit? You know, it's been one of them where it's been a disjointed start to the season. And look, you're not expecting the Panthers to win every single game. No. But to win 1 and lose 4 is concerning. Dolphins, coming off the back of a win, they're at home. The Panthers could be vulnerable. The Panthers could be 1-5 come this time next week. So it's going to be an interesting one. I think Dylan Edwards is fit enough to be in the squad, so that I think helps the Panthers with their spine and gives Cleary and Yo a little bit of extra experience and support in the spine. But there's a lot of young players in this Panthers side. On the Dolphins side of things, that win in round 5 was morale boosting. It got them off that winless start, and I think the Panthers could be vulnerable here. There's the potential of an I wouldn't say an upset at this point with the way the Panthers are playing, but there's the potential for the Dolphins to go 2-4, and the Panthers to go 1-5. The Panthers are vulnerable. The Dragons Titans is game 2 at the weekend. The Dragons like losing tight games, yet they masterminded that fantastic win against the Storm. All their defeats have been in close games, games in which they should have won. In theory, the Dragons, could be unbeaten to start the season. In practice, they've won the one game. The Titans, in attack, when their attack clicks, it's lethal. It's their discipline that let them down last weekend. So if they can keep their discipline, that attack is really starting to click now with Brimson and Campbell in the halves, and that's really starting to show some real progress as a halves partnership. 2 electric runners of the ball. Their kicking game could use a bit of work. It's still a weak area of the Titans, but I think this one could actually be quite a fun game because there's points in both sets of teams. Both teams can score. The Dragons have proven they can score points. It's about game management with the Dragons, and when they are in front, managing the game and the kick game in the territory. With the Titans, it's about their discipline. There is no doubt the Titans defensively are a lot better. Their attack is clicking, and they're responding to Des Hasler's coaching. So this could be quite a fun game. If it's tight, I think the Titans win. If it's a blowout, the Titans win. I think the Titans are favourites, but I can't predict anything with the way the Dragons matches have gone this season. The Broncos and the Roosters, this is their second meeting of the season. Obviously, the Broncos smashed the Roosters, earlier in the season. This is going to be interesting with how the Roosters lost against the Bunnies last weekend, and with changes to the lineup, with some players being dropped, some other players being recalled. The Broncos, they've shown some vulnerabilities defensively. They haven't been perfect. That after that opening round win against the Roosters, where they scored 50 points, they've shown a few vulnerabilities, or however they've only lost the one game. So while the Roosters have only won the one game since, so it's an interesting one. I think the Broncos are going to have too much for the Roosters again. I think there's the same issues with the Roosters are persisting. Their depth is being tested. There are a lot of injuries. This Roosters, much like the Panthers, this could be a written off season quite early on because this is round 6, and the Roosters haven't been this poor since 2016, and this Roosters side looks vulnerable. And Trent Robinson is making the changes. He's trying to figure out a way to get some response from his squad. But I think the Broncos not only they definitely will have too much for them. And I fear for the Roosters away at Suncorp. The Sharks Sea Eagles looks like it could be quite a tasty encounter. Both sides coming off defeats last weekend. And the Sea Eagles were blitzed in 2 short spells by the Storm. But the Sea Eagles, when their attack clicks, look dangerous. The Sharks, when their attack clicks, looks dangerous. It's just, again, game management and maintaining that performance for an entire 80 minutes. This could be quite a close game, and could be quite a fun game. I think the Sea Eagles will be smarting from that defeat to the Storm, and the Sharks will be feeling a bit angry at themselves for how they got beaten by the Raiders. So both sides need a response. They've had mixed starts to the season, but when they get their attacks to click, especially the Sea Eagles, they look dangerous. Now we've got the Rabbitohs against the Cowboys. The Bunnies, doing surprisingly well to start the season. Issues in the halves. Is Latrell Mitchell going to be in the centres or in the halves to start this game? Lewis Dodd's got another suspension in reserve grade, so that's delaying his full debut for the Bunnies. The Cowboys, back-to-back wins. They're trying to aim for 3 in a row and get their season and momentum started. And the Cowboys are notoriously known as slow starters to a season. However, they're starting to build some momentum as well. It's going to be interesting to see how Latrell Mitchell, if he does play in the halves, how that impacts the Rabbitohs and their structures and how they play. Some people will say they got a bit lucky with that winning try with that forward pass, and we all know it was a forward pass. Let's not kid ourselves. But they've started the season. They've won a lot of close games. They've managed to grind out games that last 2 years they would have lost. So Wayne Bennett has had a positive impact on the Bunnies. The Cowboys, they've started to turn things around, and they're aiming for 3 in a row. So this could be quite a fun game matchup as well. And I think the Rabbitohs at some point will have to lose again. And the Cowboys, they're building some momentum of their own. This could be quite a close encounter. I think the Cowboys, after their poor start to the season, were written off a little bit, and they're starting to come back into contention. So it's going to be quite an interesting one. I think the Bunnies, with some of the injuries they've got, that could impact their structures a little bit and how their attack functions. But defensively, they're a lot better, and their game management is better. They're staying in games that last year they would have lost. The Eels Raiders, this is going to be an interesting one. The Eels obviously coming off their first win of the season last weekend. The Raiders have now got a winning record after beating the Sharks last weekend, and this could be fun. This is two young sides. The Raiders have definitely got the fitness and the work ethic to overcome, I wouldn't say lack of talent, but their inexperience in a lot of areas. They're a very youthful Elite 30 squad that the Raiders have. Very youthful. They're a team in transition. The Eels are another team that's going through a transitionary period. So this could be quite a fun game. And with the way the Eels, really, dug in and stuck in there against the Dragons to get that first win of the season, that showed a bit of fight that had been lacking in the opening month of the season. The Raiders, 2 wins, 2 losses, then a win. They need to get a bit of consistency going. But they like doing things in pairs. This could be a fun game. But the Eels want to back up that gritty performance with another similar energetic performance. They need to have that work ethic to supplement their lack of depth, their lack of experience. These are 2 inexperienced sides when you look at the average amount of games played for both squads. So there's going to be a lot of errors in this game. This is going to be an open, error-filled game. There's going to be turnovers. There's going to be intercepts. There's going to be something. There's going to be action in this game. It's not going to be a perfect game of rugby league. There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be errors. There's going to be stretched defences. You're going to be scrambling defence. There's going to be defensive mismatches. It's going to be fun. The Storm Warriors, I'm actually looking forward. This for me is the match of the round. I think the Warriors could upset the Storm a little bit. The Storm have shown some vulnerabilities, and even in that dominant points total they got against the Sea Eagles, they had some vulnerabilities, and they've got a few injury concerns going into this game. There's a few players not 100%, with some niggles going into this game. And the Warriors, fresh off a bye, so they've had that extra week of preparation for this game. And historically, games between the Storm and the Warriors are exceptionally entertaining. And with the way the Warriors have played this season, they are the real deal. Last season was an aberration. This Warriors side has got the commitment, the talent, the work ethic. They're still adjusting to life without Sean Johnson. I think that it has taken some time to get used to him not being around the squad, and I think that is a big loss. But Metcalf is coming into his own now with Harris Tavita. They're really developing a really good halves partnership, and they're working well together, which I think helps with the continuity and helps improve the attack, which was struggling in week one. Since then, they haven't looked back. They have been growing week on week. They've been building momentum. I think they might have been a bit frustrated they had the bye last week. I think they want to keep that momentum building. So we'll see. The team coming off the bye, it's generally mixed teams coming off the bye. I'll have to look at how the bye week impacts, teams' form. If they've gone into the bye with a win, do they come out winning? Do they lose? So the Warriors went into the bye with a win, on a winning streak. Let's see if they can continue that momentum or if the bye has disrupted that momentum. But the Storm, while their attack is clicking, defensively there are some weaknesses with the Storm, and they have got some injuries they've got to contend with. The Knights versus the Tigers is going to be an interesting one. The Knights were the only team to fail to score last weekend. The Tigers... the Knights were the only team to fail to score last weekend, which is interesting. The Tigers are showing a lot of improvement. Are they a top 8 side? Time will tell, but the Tigers are definitely showing a lot of improvement. Luai's back in the side, which will be a massive boost for them. They've been fun to watch, the Tigers. Even in defeat, they've been fun to watch. They've got no fear. They're playing with a lot more confidence. Their attack is looking more lethal, and they're playing better even in defeat. The Knights were dismal they were terrible last weekend, absolutely terrible. Apart from their opening 2 rounds where they weren't overly selling the product, let's just say that, the Knights have been pretty average. And I think the Tigers will want to have revenge for the opening night defeat where they were leading 8-0 and lost 10-8. And I think the Tigers have it within them, not only to score 8 points, but to score a lot of points. They're going to be frustrated with the last couple of results. The Knights, they haven't really set the things on fire since their opening 2 wins to start the year. They've been pretty mediocre, and I think the Tigers have the strike weapons out wide, and the pace that they have, the pace they put on the ball, and with Luai back in the side, I think the Tigers could do this and snap their poor run of form. They've shown enough, even in defeat, that they are exciting. They have no fear, and I think Benji Marshall has just instilled in the players, play what's in front of them, play with confidence, enjoy their football. The Knights, they just seem to be a little bit constrained, if that makes sense. They seem a bit robotic, and I think you cannot be robotic with the 6 again rule and with a team like the Tigers that will just look to go wide quick, look to spread the ball, look at run dangerous lines. You cannot be mechanical and robotic. You need to have a bit more flexibility in your play. The Bulldogs will still remain the only unbeaten side in the competition. They have the bye this weekend. So there we go. There's the round 6 preview. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts in the comments section below. Let's see what your people's predictions are for the scores. But there are a couple of teams that are in must-win territory at this point. The Panthers and Roosters are in serious trouble. The Panthers could get a good win over the Dolphins and stop this poor start and turn the momentum. But if they lose this one, I think the Panthers, they can write their season off. The Roosters, they've already had a hammering by the Broncos earlier in the season. They're in deep trouble as well of writing their season off. But we shall see what happens. But there we go. Every team has now won at least one game. And the Bulldogs will still remain unbeaten in round 6 because they have the bye. But for me, for now, thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts in the comments section below, and I'll have some more content for you all very, very soon.